Hi, I'm Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I've read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He's the author of the book Stakeholder Whispering, no other than Mr. Bill Shander. Well,
Hello.
yes, welcome, Mr. Bill. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Sure. Yes. Hello, everybody. I am Bill Shander, and I am an information designer. So I take information, usually data, and I tell stories and design experiences out of it. So data dashboards, interactive data experiences, etc. But these days, more than doing that, I teach that on LinkedIn Learning and on workshops around the world. Over 2 million students have taken my courses. But I wrote a book this year, which is why I'm here to talk today, of course, with Daniel. And the book is Stakeholder Whispering, which is all about, as the tagline says, uncover what people need before doing what they ask. And I think it's a problem that we all face where we're told to do something by somebody and we just jump to it, and we should pause, slow down a little bit, and figure out if that's really what they need before we do it. So that's the purpose of the book.
Indeed, and Mr. Bill Shander, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. The title suggests a move from order taker to a strategic partner. What is the fundamental mindset shift a professional must take to stop simply executing requests and start uncovering true needs?
Yeah, I mean, the basic idea is that, no one should want to be an order taker. If you want to be an order taker, then you'll stick exactly where you are in your career. And that's okay if that's what you want to do. But if you want to advance, then rather than being an order taker, you have to figure out what people really need from you. The people who get ahead are those who go a little bit beyond that initial request. And the fact of the matter is, our stakeholders often don't know what they need. So when you're an order taker, they ask you to do X, you do X, and then later on they're like, "Oh, hold on. I don't really need X, I need Y. Why did you do X?" "Well, you asked me to." "Yeah, but I really need Y. Come on, go do Y." And then you jump and you go do Y, and you iterate and iterate and iterate. And maybe if you're lucky, eventually you get to the right outcome, but tons of time and money and heartache has been wasted along the way. So if you avoid order taking and really figure out what people need, everyone's happier and you will get ahead in your career.
What was the most common and damaging consequence you see when teams consistently do what they ask or without first questioning the underlying need?
The biggest thing, it's like I just said, immense amounts of time and money are wasted. And the easiest example I can share is, I've been around for a few years. And when I was working in like the 90s and the 2000s and even the 2010s, companies would have like a knee jerk reaction to any technology that came down the road, right? So, like, for example, back in like the 90s, every company on earth implemented an ERP system or a learning management system or a CRM or whatever the flavor of the day was. And is it because they all needed those things? Probably not. Probably it was because, oh, their competitor put in a CRM, or they heard a CRM is a good thing to have for their sales teams. But did they really investigate whether a CRM is the best tool for them and their processes? Most of the time they didn't. And these systems were crazy expensive. They took incredible amounts of time to implement. And I don't have a statistic, but a huge percentage of companies would have to throw these systems out after spending 2 years and millions of dollars implementing them. So it's an incredible waste. And on top of all that, with AI these days, the fact is AI will take orders. So if AI is going to take the order and just run with it, how do you differentiate from AI? And one way is to actually figure out what people need. And AI really can't do that.
Interesting, Mr. Bill. So, what are the key qualities that separate stakeholder whisperer from someone who is just a good communicator or a diligent project manager?
Yeah, it's a good question. in the book, I teach a bunch of different techniques, how to do stakeholder whispering. And I think that, a few of the key ideas, number one is, and this is something that most people don't do, but acknowledge and recognize that at all times, everybody's being driven by their subconscious. And what that translates into is what I talked about before. Your boss, your stakeholder, whoever they are, they're going to do the automated expected thing. We have a new product, we should make a brochure. We have data, we should make a dashboard. We have a sales team, we should give them a CRM. And so the first step, the first quality of a good stakeholder whisperer is to recognize that that's happening and investigate it. Maybe you need a CRM, but maybe you don't. Maybe we should investigate that a little bit further. Another key quality is empathy. You have to really step into the shoes of your stakeholders. So it's not just company has sales, we should have a CRM, but go to the salespeople and say, watch them, see how they do what they do. Ask them if having organized data in a certain way would be helpful to them. But don't just ask that question. Also ask, what would it look like? Are you going to put data in every day? Are you on the road a lot? Is it putting data into a system like this reasonable, feasible, likely, etc.? So empathy is really important. I think a little bit of what I call useful paranoia is important, to constantly be questioning everything. It's also known as critical thinking. And then on top of that, one of the most important skills and attributes is curiosity. You have to be curious. You have to care about what you're working on. If you don't care what you're working on, you're not going to be curious and you're not going to try to solve problems. Take the orders and just, put your head down and do your work. But if you're at all curious, then you're going to say, gee, I wonder if there's a better way. And then you're going to be much more likely to really probe and investigate these tasks your stakeholders ask you to perform.
How do you build the necessary trust with the stakeholders to have these deeper, sometimes challenging conversations without being perceived as a difficult or obstructive, Mr. Bill?
Yeah, it's a key question. I get asked this all the time. And the secondary question to that is, what if I have a difficult stakeholder, which is a whole other thing. But, because it does require trust. Um, first of all, if you're older like I am, and you have gray hair like I do, what little I have, I'm perceived as an expert when I walk into a room. I'm really lucky, and I don't have to deal with this quite as often these days as I used to. But the beautiful thing, and we know this from research, is that people really value experts and expertise, which is why I get treated so well by my clients. But even if you're on day one of your career, you can leverage expertise. And so you may not be the expert. They don't immediately have that trust in you as an expert. But if you come to the table citing research to back up the points that you're making, guess what? You get the glow of somebody else's expertise. And by the way, expertise is really, really powerful. There's actually a study that was done where they put people in an MRI machine and they watch their brain activity, different parts of the brain light up. If the person talking to the person in the MRI machine was an expert, their frontal cortex literally shuts off, flatline. And what they realize what's happening is that because it's an expert giving advice to the person in the MRI machine, they stop thinking. That's the part of the brain that handles like reasoning. We trust expertise. So as much as you can leverage expertise, the more likely you are to be perceived as somebody who's worth talking to. And by the way, the more you do stakeholder whispering, the more you'll be perceived as the expert and build that trust over time. And a good place to start, by the way, is like one question, like, let's say you have a meeting with your boss, they say do X. They're not going to give you an hour conversation. They don't trust you quite that much yet. But can you ask one question? Hey, boss, I know you said to do X. Tell me more about that. Just get them talking and they'll fill in more blanks. And when you listen well and execute on that with more context, you're building trust. And next time, maybe you ask a second question. Hey, how are we going to measure success? Which is always a good question, but it's really good for stakeholder whispering because now you know a lot of the nuance, like what to orient your solution around, because you know how to measure success. So you build trust by performing well, and you bring expertise to the table to get to the table in the first place.
Interesting, Mr. Bill. And when a stakeholder presents a fully formed solution, what is the most effective first question you ask to gently peel back the layers and get the root need?
When you're actually presenting the actual solution, is that what you said?
Yes, please.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Most of the book that I concentrate on is before you've done the project. It's how to figure out what people need even before you do the work. But it's a really good question. And what I would say is this, that starting off that conversation with an open-ended question is always a good idea. Hey, what do you think? It's that simple. And when you ask what do you think, you're going to get all kinds of responses. I don't like the color. I think it's too big. Whatever, that's assuming it's like a design thing. Or if it's a project report, it's a report. Where'd you get this data? They're going to have all kinds of questions and all kinds of comments, sometimes negative, sometimes positive. But you're going to get them talking. And that's the key. And as they're talking, you're going to have good follow-up questions to what they bring up. And in the best case scenario, you go into that meeting, just like every meeting, with some anticipation of what you think they're going to say. So let's say you designed a new brochure for a product, and you know that there's a lot of red on that brochure, and you kind of anticipate they might be like, that's a lot of red. Should we have that much red on this brochure? You can go into the room with a follow-up answer or a follow-up question about that. Hey, what is it about red that you do or don't like? You can prepare and have a more constructive conversation that way. You can't prepare every follow-up question or every answer, but you can get the gist of it and do as best you can in that way.
Definitely. And many are familiar with the five whys technique. How does your methodology for root cause analysis and stakeholder management differ or expand on this classic approach?
Yeah, so I talk about the five whys in the book. It is a classic approach. It is fantastic. And my approach is, first of all, I recommend doing the five whys. And so, yeah, for those of you who don't know the five whys, you ask why 5 times, and eventually you get to the true root cause of an issue, not like the quick answer. It's very similar. And I have a different technique, which I call the dance of the 6 W's. And the W questions are who, what, when, where, why, how. How is an honorary W question. And the way you implement or perform the dance of the 6 W's is you're asking all these W questions. Well, tell me who's going to use this thing? Why are they going to use it? When are they going to use it? How are they going to use it? Tell me more about these people. Well, what do you know about their activities and how they perform their tasks and blah, 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 blah. The reason this is so effective, and it's slightly different from the five whys, is that some of those questions are divergent questions that are open-ended and that really invite endless possibilities of conversation. Like why? Some of the questions are more convergent. They lead to decision making. They narrow the conversation. And there's 2 reasons why this is so effective. Number one, some people are more comfortable with one or another type. So a divergent thinker will be very comfortable with the divergent questions. They'll like brainstorm all day long. But convergent questions that force them to make hard choices, they're not so comfortable with. And the other way around too. Convergent thinkers love decision-making questions, but hate open-ended questions. The reason this is powerful is that whichever the person is, they're going to be comfortable for some of the time and uncomfortable other parts of the time. And that discomfort is really productive. The discomfort allows them to suddenly be like, ooh, I feel uncomfortable. Wait a second. I see something new and different. It allows them to come to an insight about what their true need actually is. So it's the bouncing back and forth and the fact that they're comfortable and uncomfortable between those 2 types of questions that leads them to a new way of thinking about this task that's at hand. So that's the one technique that I talk about in the book that's similar to the 5 whys, but different.
Mr. Bill, as an author as well as a learning instructor, what are your short term and long term goals?
Well, I mean, my short-term goals is I really want to get out there and talk as much as I can about this book. I honestly think this book is about one of the most important, if not the most important soft skills people need to get ahead in their careers. So I really want people to sort of pick up the book and read it, definitely, or even just listen to me when I'm on these podcasts and really let these ideas sink in and act on them. Because I know from my own experience and others that this is how you do better work and get ahead in your career. Um, Longer term, I may consider writing other books. I always do more training and teaching on LinkedIn and for workshop clients. I love sharing information with people. I love public speaking. I love just getting up there and talking and sharing ideas with people. So longer term, I'd like to just keep doing more of that.
Good luck to your goals, Mr. Bill. I'm looking forward for more success. And what will be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be like you?
I would say, put your head down, do your work, always good advice, but don't just do what you're told. And this can be hard sometimes, right? Don't be an order taker. It's really the key phrase that I love to use. Don't be an order taker. You brought it up. So, do good work. Have good relationships with your stakeholders. It's not about not doing what they asked you. It's not about, rejecting everything your stakeholders request of you. It's about taking their requests and then investigate it with them collaboratively. And the one thing we didn't talk about is that this whole process, as I describe it in the book, it's like therapy. Your job is to ask these questions of them, not just to learn the answers yourself, although that is part of it. You're asking the questions to help them think differently. You're guiding them. And so that collaborative effort not only will, again, lead to good work, et cetera, but and build trust, as we talked about, but it's going to help them do better. So it's really a win-win for everybody. So just think in a new way about how you do your work. Be usefully paranoid. Really sort of take a step back, put on your critical thinking hat, and push back a little bit, not in a hostile way, but in a constructive way to do the best work you possibly can.
In a constructive way, for sure. And thank you for that advice, Mr. Bill. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Say that one more time. Sorry.
Yes, can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, I'll talk about a couple of books that I quote in my book. One of them is Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman, one of the great psychology books of all time and certainly of the 21st century. Key idea in that book is that we have instinctive, fast thinking responses to things and slower, more reasoned thinking about things. Really, it's all about the subconscious. It's all about the fast thinking. And we have to sort of constantly push back against that. Another book in that category is Stumbling on Happiness by Daniel Gilbert, which is also about fast and slow thinking, but other things as well. Another book that I quote in the book in my book a lot is Curious by Ian Leslie. Great book, and also Robert Cialdini's Influence: The Psychology of Persuasion. And I could go on and on. There are so many books that I have been influenced by, most of which I quote in my book heavily because they're brilliant.
Brilliant indeed, and thank you for that recommended books, Mr. Bill. What personal experience or professional failure led you to develop this concept and write this book? Was there a specific blue button or moment for you?
I would say there have definitely been many failures in my career that have influenced the book for sure. And I talk about some of them in the book. But, just broadly, because I came from the world of design, designers know this idea. We talk about it all the time. Oh, my clients, they want me to make the logo bigger, but they don't know why, right? Or the clients say make it red, but really, why should it be red? So we've talked in this sort of language from the dawn of time, designers. But everybody needs to know this. And every failure I have had in my career, like a project that I did, a giant 7-figure project for a head of state in another country, essentially, failed. And it failed not because the technology failed or we did a bad job on the design or anything else, but it was a failure of stakeholder whispering. I did not understand what they really needed from us well enough. So, understanding our stakeholders' needs, really digging into it. It's not just needs assessment or requirements gathering. it's really digging in deep, like a therapist, dealing with a patient. That's how you really deliver success. Steve Jobs said, people don't know what they want until I show it to them, right? Henry Ford said, people, when I asked them what they wanted, they would have said faster horses, or if I had asked them what they wanted. So people don't know what they need. We have to understand this, and it's in all cases. So if you dig in deep, get to that underlying need, you will have less failure, more success, and get ahead in your career. But yeah, I've had individual stories of like anecdotes like that throughout my career, but it's also just broadly living in the world of design where that's just ubiquitous.
Interesting experience, Mr. Bill. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season. Abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too. Comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast Law 101 and Mental Health 101. Love letters in third season, and movie 101 to be music 101 in fourth season, and science 101 and sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Bill, if anyone or everyone in an organization's mastered stakeholder whispering, what will be the culture of that?
The culture would be an organization where everybody listens to each other, everybody respects and engages each other, and they push each other, they challenge each other a little bit, enough to do great work. And I've had clients who have that culture. Some of my best clients are clients that valued me when I came in and asked questions of them. And I could see them doing it with each other. So, one of the things people ask me is like, what if I have a difficult boss and they just won't engage with me? I say, find a new boss. You would much rather be in a culture where stakeholder whispering is the norm rather than, top down hierarchical, just do what I said kind of a culture. It's way more fulfilling and satisfying for everybody involved.
Mr. Bill Shander, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your book, your advocacy, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Yeah, I want to thank you very much for having me, for sure. And I hope everybody has a chance to engage with the book in one way or another. And you can always find me on billshander.com or on LinkedIn.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Bill Shander, because if you support him, more and more empowering books like this to come. And one more question, Mr. Bill. Beyond single project success, how does this approach transform to overall relationship between, say, a product team or its a stakeholder over the long term?
I mean, you use the phrase build trust, right? When you build trust with everybody around you, that you care about what you do, you care about the success of the organization, and essentially you care about each other because you're doing this in a collaborative way, in a respectful way with everybody. Everybody will succeed. Everybody moves ahead together. So it is. You also use the word culture. This will build. This helps contribute to a strong culture in addition to, yes, individual project success.
Moticon people, see you soon.
Thank you.